接下来为圆桌论坛 ，The next session will be Roundtable Forum， 主题为新世代的教育愿景与策略，请总统府资政台湾亚洲交流基金会肖新煌董事长为我们主持。Welcome Professor Yoshida, Professor Wiggery, Professor Kennedy, Professor Torres。考试院姚立的考试委员，暨南国际大学伍东兴校长，台湾图灵链股份有限公司胡耀杰创办人进行语谈。接下来将时间交给主持人。
Good afternoon, everyone, and please thank you very much for staying late, not too late, but we'll stay for the last roundtable. And usually in any international conference, roundtable should be the highlight of any event. That means we will wrap up, we will summarize it, and we will provide a vision, we'll provide a highlight for the future action to be taken. And that's follow that direction. We will guide our today's roundtable. For the last 2 days, with many presentations and discussions and exchange ideas, and we probably can summarize that for this conference, we have 3 major mega trends which we should follow and we should take seriously and to guide the future policy recommendations. And also even might change the educational institution teaching and research. I think the first is digital education. I think it's inevitable. It's another global revolution that in education is no exception. That digital education, AI, should be included in every level of educational system and educational training. The second is especially to today's world that we are polarized between dictatorial system, authoritarianism versus democracy. And we should really enhance our citizen education, civic education, and democracy nurturing. And number 3, in this globalizing world, I think the global vision and global education is inevitable. So I think with 3 digital, democracy, democratic, civic, and international and global are the 3 main themes that has come across for the last 2 days, either in individual presentations or the exchange of ideas, and also the conclusion made in different sessions. So I think in this roundtable, we will follow up that direction to see what step we should take in changing the educational curriculum to improve and even to redirect our educational research and to formulate the workable and reliable educational policies. And also we might improve our general public education. So in that 3 aspects. So I think this roundtable, we have a lineup, a very distinguished panelist for you in this afternoon. I think the MC already briefly introduced our speakers. So I will not repeat because you know them already. You know them already for the 2 days. So I think we will not waste the time to provide a detailed, impressive the achievement they have made. So please refer to the pamphlet before the booklet. They have a detailed description of each of the speakers. So first, I would like to inform you that Professor Carlos Alberto Torres from UCLA, who could not make in person to this conference, but has prepared kindly the video, pre-recorded video. So Please join me to welcome Professor Torres for the presentations. There will be 8 minutes.
In this segment, I would like to present some arguments of practical applications of these models that presented previously to the work of universities. This new book that just came out, the 5th edition of Comparative Education, the Dialectic of the Global and the Local, has many of the ideas that I presented before, and I'm going to present now. But my goal today is to start with a proposal. We need a pedagogy of hope. This pedagogy of hope needs to underscore the work that we do in our classes, in our professional collaboration, in all the different components of teaching, learning, research, and of course, the presentation of this material to the general public. The goal then is to define a set of principles that universities have to embrace in order to be more effective in creating and recreating a civic culture. Let's start with a basic premise, which universities are part of the common good. And therefore, universities have to promote the public good. And in promoting the public good, we need to defend public universities. In some places, they are under attack. In some places, the presence of authoritarian governments or authoritarian social movements are putting the public universities, to use sport metaphor, against the wall before they can react to this systematic attack. Defense of public education, and particularly public universities, making them inclusive and affordable for all the citizens, is a precondition for a model that I will define as the pedagogy of hope. Second, defense of democracy. As I said before, and I reaffirm now, democracy has been under attack. Even in this country, the oldest democracy on earth. It's been under attack by authoritarianism. It's been under attack by militias that try to take over the government through violence. It's been under attack by charlatans who are using their ability to conduct, confuse, and affect the understanding of general groups to the use of charisma. Mind you that the charisma cannot be socialized, so only work in the hands of an individual who can definitely use it with powerful means. This is exactly the situation today in the US. And one of the principles of this charismatic attack is exactly to undermine liberal democracy, perhaps by following the premises of Putin, creating an illiberal democracy. So the defense of democracy is fundamental, is crucial, is definitely a precondition for a pedagogy of hope. But in addition to all of that, it is indispensable the defense of a democratic nation state. Or, as we know, the welfare state, which has created a large number of networks of sustainability and creating the possibilities for even the people less favored by the conditions of reality, perhaps to survive or even prosper. The ability of the welfare state, or put in a generic political term, of the nation state as a democratic state is fundamental for this pedagogy of hope that I'm advocating today. And without this pedagogy of hope, we will not have the capability of a democratic process to put forward. In addition to all of these elements, I would like to suggest the need to create a multicultural, democratic state. And this democratic, multicultural state has to have a venue, a connection of what I will say is important, a global environment. We need to connect because we already are, given the different process of globalization, interconnected by public connections through the internet or private connections to the internet. We are connected by forms of transportation, etc. It's in this moment that a global, multicultural, democratic state, as advocated by the UN, is a precondition to obtain what I defended before, the global commons. That is sustainability of the planet, defense of peace as a fundamental treasure of humanity, and the ability to pursue life, liberty, and happiness, which is what all we want. All we want that. So my goal at this point is insisting that the traditional liberal democratic state has to be transformed into a multicultural, global, democratic nation state. I appreciate very much your patience and thank you very much for listening to my comments.
I still need to thank Professor Torres, even though he cannot hear me, by saying my hearted appreciation of his talk. So it is illuminating to hear from him at UCLA to talk about the necessity, the challenge of civic and democratic education in that oldest democratic countries on the earth. So that means what? That means we cannot take democracy for granted. Old and new. And in Taiwan, we are the infant democracy. And therefore, we should not take democracy for granted. And we should put all the effort together to safeguard this democracy and to safeguard and even rescue this democracy. So I think it's a very important. This is a very good contrast of lessons for us to learn. So okay, that is the special lecture on site, online. Now we are into the the panel discussion in person. We have 6 presenters in front of us, and each one of them will give 6 minutes in the first round. And then we will have open the discussion among these main tables, and then another 4 minutes. Before I invite my first speaker, I would like to congratulate the Professor黄昆辉for organizing this wonderful international conference. His foundation has done a marvelous job. So let's give applause. And he has been working very hard for Taiwan's education, to safeguard and rescue Taiwan education, and then to improve Taiwan's education for the next generation to come. So, okay, let's move to the main task. So let me call on the first speaker, Professor Aya Washida from Waseda University. Oh, Yoshida, sorry. Confused with Waseda University. Yoshida, yeah, correct. From Waseda University, and you will have 6 minutes. Please, welcome.
I'd like to talk about integrating arts and science education in high school and university education. This is the outline, and recent years, Japan has searched for education for high schools and universities that integrates arts and sciences in the course of study. It is not necessarily a new concept for both high school and universities. What is the new aspect of it? I'd like to talk about this one. Okay, let me explain this background of this new movement. The first issue is high school education. So in Japan, most high school students have to choose their course of study, either art course or science course, in the fall of the first grade. The students who choose art course do not need to study science subjects a lot, and vice versa. So this system has been useful, efficient, in a sense, to prepare for entrance examinations for universities. So the time to choose courses has become earlier and earlier recent years. So university students usually take liberal education or general education in the first and second years. However, contrary to the idea of studying a wide range of disciplines from humanities, social sciences to sciences, liberal education in Japan has lost substance for a long time. Because of educational system that students choose art course or science course in high school and have to decide their majors before taking entrance exam into universities. So they do not have much opportunity and motivation to study a variety of disciplines other than their majors. One more thing, gender issues. There is no difference in PISA test scores of science and mathematics between boys and girls in Japan. But the ratio of girls who choose science course in high school and major science disciplines at universities is significantly lower than that of boys. As a result, Japan ranks the lowest in the proportion of female who major science disciplines at universities among OECD countries. Under this situation, it has become a policy issue to create a new system in which every student study both arts and science at high school. The second issue, university education. So after World War II, Japan has introduced an American type of general education and made it compulsory for all students, irrespective of their majors. Before the war, we had a German type of higher education system. The purpose of introducing general education after the war is to nurture the people, nurture the whole person or an educated citizen based on the US concept. It has been very difficult to maintain the integrity between general education and specialized education in undergraduate. And finally, the compulsory general education courses are abolished in 1991. Since then, liberal education as a succession of general education has been at discretion of universities, and the ratio of liberal education among graduate requirements has declined. So, however, a new trend has emerged in recent years. It is an attempt to implement liberal education in a junior year or a senior year or even in graduate schools. This is completely different from liberal education conducted at the first 2 years. Students whose majors are different take this course and discuss a topic from the perspectives of their disciplines during the class. Topics for this liberal education are contemporary controversial issues. Let me show one example as a topic. So are there any forgivable case of murder? This is one of the topics. It is not easy to reach a conclusion for this type of topics. So the purpose of liberal education in a junior or senior year is to explain the way of thinking from their own disciplines and to understand the notion of their disciplines with discussing controversial topics in a class. This could allow students to explore their disciplines further. So if we look around the world, the benefits of liberal education have begun to attract attention against the 2010s. I call this system re-empower of liberal education. In some European countries, including England, liberal education component has been introduced into a part of undergraduate education, where universities traditionally consist only of 3-year specialized education. So it is interesting to note that universities making such an attempt to concentrate in highly selective universities. I think the reason of it as the following. So highly selective universities have produced high-ranked human resources who will lead our future. So they may think the future leaders cannot survive in a globalized world with only one discipline. And so they should broaden their perspectives at universities to be able to cope with any challenges. I am not sure whether this idea is not right or is correct or not right now. The answer will be revealed over the next decade. I, however, do not think this idea, a new type of liberal education, missed the point because we live through hard times which we cannot make a certain prediction, but will happen even in the near future. Liberal education might be a stepping stone for our future generations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Yoshida. I think as a sociologist, I was struck by the first the lessons that Professor Yoshida mentioned about in Japan, the high school, the scores, PISA scores among girls and boys are equal. no difference. But then going to university, the boys take the lead and girls was far behind. So what happened? Not because of ability, not because of value system and the biased and the family selection decision making. So that should be changed, for number one. Second, I think she mentioned about improve the liberal education for all science, technology, biology, humanities, and social sciences. The liberal education is very important so that a more well-rounded leadership in all aspects in the future can be trained. So I think that is a very important lessons we can. And I'm sure Taiwan has shared the same thing. Our girls are very smart in math and science, but go to college in engineering, most are boys. But again, the new trend is the biology in life science, and more achieved scientists are females. So very, very, this is a new trend which is encouraging as well. Okay, so thank you very much, and we can discuss this further. Second, I would like to invite Professor Rupert Wegeriff from the University of Cambridge. Please.
Thank you for inviting me. The topic of this panel is a vision of the future of education. So I thought I would start by asking, what do we mean by future skills? There's been a lot of debate about 21st century skills. They've talked about communication, creativity, critical thinking. But some people have challenged this. Where does it come from? What is the essence of this? And I think the essence is an orientation towards the future. I'll tell a little story, a true story about how I helped to realize the significance of this. When my son was 5 years old, he used to force me to go with him on a roller coaster. There was a nearby where we lived, and I had to go on this roller coaster, you're up and down, and it just made me feel sick. I didn't know why he enjoyed it, you know. And I told him, I just feel ill here, and he explained to me, you have to drive, you have to pretend, you look forward, you pretend you're driving. And I tried this, and it worked, I felt better. And actually, I think that's very profound about the nature of a future orientation of education. There's a program now of futures literacy in UNESCO led by Martin Riel, and it's about getting young people to think about the future, to do scenario planning, to consider, well, what's going to happen with climate change, but also all these other challenges. And interestingly, thinking about the future, and sometimes this is done with role-play games online, helps them to feel better about the future and to see the opportunities to realize that everything always changes. If we have an education that is based on the past and transmitting the past, this is going to lead to anxiety when changes arise. So the essential future skills are skills like enterprise, which just means looking at things as if they could be changed, to see how you could make them better. And in order to make them better, you have to collaborate, you have to think collectively. So communication and dialogue are key future skills in that respect as well. So it's very easy to solve educational problems in theory. This is the problem for academics. It's very easy to say that we need to have a global education, for example, but how do we do it in practice? So I'd like to look at a successful example from MIT, the Scratch program. This is a global online mediated community of practice for young people to learn programming. It was set up, I think, by Mitch Resnick after Seymour Papert in MIT, and I think you have it in Taiwan. It's a global community. But what interests me is how this can practically transform education now. In the UK, we have, of course, a school-based curriculum. We have computing in the curriculum. It's very difficult for teachers to know how to do this. They can't afford to get the expert programmers. So frequently they use Scratch in school. So you have computers, and they will discuss together in the classroom, but also online. When I say it's peer-to-peer, so young people develop programs, share them with other young people, discuss them. I think this is a model that we could use in other ways. So we saw Professor Torres argued that we needed to develop a multicultural but global democracy. But how do we do that in practice? Well, I have a proposal based on the success of Generation Global, which has a dialogue between many thousands of young people. We have the tools and the technology to create online mediated communities where we could get groups of young people from different countries, small groups, to work together in challenge-based learning, looking at the challenges of the future. There could be a local challenge that they agree to discuss, or something like how do we address global warming. And by working together, they would learn about future skills, and they would learn also about how to build a global culture in the future. So rather like Scratch, which is an online mediated community, we could have this as an online program which could be integrated into schools. So you would still go to school, you'd still have the community of the school, but you would have one lesson where you work with people in different countries on future-oriented education. This is my concrete proposal. I wasn't totally checking the time, so you must stop me if I go on too long, but I think I'm okay.
Lady over there will show the sign.
Oh yeah, he'll tell me. Okay, great. So, so this is a proposal which we are looking for funding, but we really know how to do this. I was going to call it the Cambridge Open Web of Learning, but I'm happy to work with other people. We could actually do this tomorrow. We have the technology. We know how to do it. The other proposal is an open school, which could be in every country. There are many children who don't go to school for various reasons. Sometimes they are expelled, sometimes they have health problems, sometimes their parents just don't like the school. So we could have an open school. In England, we have a very successful open university. Somebody earlier said that online learning, yesterday, online learning is never as good as face-to-face. This is not true. I got my PhD at the Open University. Admittedly, it was face-to-face, but the quality of our degrees are excellent, and they involve tutoring and online. It can be very high quality. It's been very successful for many decades. We could have an open school, so any child who doesn't have a school to go to could go online to work together with other children to see the many infinite resources that there are out there. And if we had an open school in each country, we could then have a global open school. Any child, anywhere at all, could have access to an education. But this would require active engagement and tutoring. So those are just my proposals, practical proposals, how we could actually augment existing schools. So not a revolution at the moment, we have to take time, but we could have one lesson a week where children had a global access and global links with other children in the schools themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, you really provide a very interesting hint that from your story about your 5-year-old kid. I'm sure that he's big now. Okay. Yeah. The future can teach the present. So I think it's very important. I think in Taiwan we have one national open university, if I'm correct, and one in Kaohsiung as a city managed open university. So that your suggestion to increase the global education to the curriculum, I think is very good advice. And even you mentioned about maybe we can link the many countries' open university education together so that we can have a really global open university environment. I think it's very important. Maybe that is the topic for Professor Wang Hongwei to think about it, rather than the school-wide education, but open university, really access to the whole people in any societies. Great, thank you very much, Professor Wegereef. So next I call on Professor Carrie Kennedy from the Educational University of Hong Kong. Okay, let's welcome Professor Kennedy.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the conference organizers for inviting me. it's a great honor. And to talk about the future is an even greater honor. So what I want to try and do is just suggest 5 things, so you can count them down as we go. I think, if I can get this to work, media. I think media education has been greatly sidelined in much of what we do in education. But I think it's become absolutely crucial and essential to the future that we help young people to understand the impact of media, whether it's traditional media, whether it's social media, and its uses. You know, we often call young people digital natives, and that defines them as differently from the rest of us who are not digital natives. But I think they need to become digital democrats. They need to understand how to use media for the sake of democracy. They need to be able to understand the difference between fake news and news that isn't fake. They need to be able to listen rather than speak. I think listening is a great skill that we sometimes tend to be losing. So I think media is certainly important in the future, and some form of media education. I don't think we can have a conference like this and not talk about the environment. Maybe we'll bring out some opponents, but that's a good thing. But there's no use talking about any kind of system if there's no planet. So it has to be part of the future in order to be part of the present, but it's not in many cases. Young people are more inclined to go into hard sciences than soft sciences. But in terms of the environment, it's what constructs us all. And I think young people need to learn about it quickly. Democratic education. Whether you call it democratic education, civic education, citizenship education, whatever you want to call it, it's quite clear that this needs to be a part of young people's education. And it may not be the kind of democratic education that exists right now. It needs to be an education that's engaging, that's relevant, that's meaningful, that speaks to digital natives who are becoming digital democrats. We need to think of it in fundamentally different ways. And of course it's related to the media and the environment. I want to say these are not in the order of priorities because this spells out a little acronym that doesn't actually mean anything very much. So democratic education of some form ought to be there. Interpersonal education. This may seem like a strange one. Why throw in interpersonal education? Look around the world, and it's very clear that the relationships between different people, whether it's at the personal level or at the national level, is often in disarray. We've got to teach young people to respect other people. This is one of the significant items in the global competence, in PISA's global competence test, is how to respect others. Actually, the questions in PISA are how to respect other cultures, but it's how to respect others. And if we don't respect others again, the planet will disappear. I don't know if you've seen any photos of Ukraine recently. Ukraine is a country that is disappearing. It's being bombed every day. If we don't have that respect, catastrophe awaits us. We already see catastrophe, right? We don't have to look at anywhere else. And the last one is that education needs to be continuing. It needs to be, I think the Director General of the Department of National Education said this earlier today, it needs to be lifelong. Now, maybe we have said too much about lifelong learning, and maybe we throw around the term without thinking clearly what it means. But from the point of view of the other points that I've raised here, it seems to me quite clear that unless we continually are learning, for example, about media and its impact on attitudes and its impact on behaviour, then we're likely to forget about it. And the same with the environment. Who can keep up with what's happening on the environmental front? Maybe the environmental scientists can, but in essence, those who need to keep up are people like ourselves and people like our students who have to inherit whatever it is that we leave them. So that education has to be not just ongoing, but integral to what it is that we see the future being. So I think if I had to choose 5 things, I would choose these 5 things. If you now ask me to choose another 5 things, I could speak for another 6 minutes. But then we'll get into trouble. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for providing this short but yet concise MEDIC, MEDIC. So maybe that's your magic word, or the MEDIC. So that's the education agenda for the future from Professor Kennedy. Okay, now let's turn to my left side now. First, I would like to invite a member of the control yuan, examination yuan, Professor Yao Lide, to give his presentation. Please join me to welcome him.
谢谢主持人，还有我们黄董事长，今天一起讨论的各位贵宾，还有今天今天在座的各位这个先进，我今天要跟各位报告的，其实我把报告的第一轮的报告把它局限在一个重点。这个重点呢，因为就是呼应到我们这个论坛的这个主题是新时代的教育愿景跟策略。那我们讲到教育的愿景，其实我们就要去看2015年联合国提出来的这个永续发展的17个目标，第4个目标是有关教育的。第4个目标他说什么？他说希望确保包容和公平的优质教育，让全民终身享有学习机会。所以我今天要跟各位报告一个重点，就是终身学习的重要，终身学习的这个重要。我们来想想看，现在的产品也好，或者是产品或者是提出来的一些服务，他们的周期越来越短。我举个例子举几个例子给大家听。我们都知道，全世界最大的 Apple 的这个 iPhone 的这个制造公司是鸿海，但是鸿海现在在做什么？它除了继续做 Apple 的这个 iPhone 之外，它现在在做电动车跟电动巴士。全世界第2大的和硕公司，它也在做。全世界第2大做 Apple 的 iPhone 手机的公司，它虽然现在也在做这个 iPhone 的手机，可是它已经卖掉一部分的工厂，在中国的大陆的一部分的工厂，它已经卖掉了。它现在在做什么？它现在在做5G 的这个5G 的相关的无线通讯设备，还有做智慧的灯杆。我们再看我们台湾水泥传统产业，做水泥的，各位知道他现在在做什么吗？除了继续做水泥之外，他现在是我们国内数1数2的储能的大公司。那我们再看我们所熟悉的 Facebook， 它除了做这个社群媒体之外，它已经甚至它把它的公司的名字都改了，叫做 Metaverse 元宇宙。它现在在做这个虚拟实境，在做这个社交媒体。所以我们可以看到产业的周期，生命周期越来越短。那各位有没有想过，在这个产业里面的工作的员工，还有它整个产业链相关的公司，他们的员工 要面临多大的改变。做水泥的现在做储能，做 iPhone 的现在要做电动车，从这个48伏特对不起，这个5伏特的这个直流，要做到了现在是这个几百伏特的电动车，这个面临的改变太大。那这么大的这个改变，我们的员工，这些产业的员工动辄数万人，还有它的产业链的公司，可能是数十万人。我们台湾的产业跟全世界的产业都一样，都面临这样的一个改变。那这样的一个改变，这些员工他大学已经毕业了，他怎么样？除了在公司在训练之外，他还有很多的知识，相关的知识，他需要有一个地方再充电。这个就是终身学习，这个是终身学习多么的重要，各位就可以想象得到，联合国第四个永续发展的目标，他说他希望要让全民终身享有学习的机会，这就是各位就可以知道这个的重要性。那这个的重要性呢，其实我有幸在几年前在教育部和这个服务的时候，其实我就看到这个 SDG 4。我其实有做了一些努力。我先跟各位报告，我们的继续教育，或者是叫做进修部教育，在之前叫做夜间部的教育，对不对？继续教育呢，其实我们差不多有40-50年的历史了。可是我们最重要的是，我们用相同的一部大学法，根据这个大学法，各个大学定相同的类似的这个学则。那我们的这个进修部的学生呢，他就像白天的这个full time 的学生一样，他有4年的修业年限，他有每学期必须要为了保持full time 的学生，他必须要有这个学分的下限，他如果要重新再修一个学位，他要重新128个学分重新修起。所以我们那时候把这些限制修法把它改掉了。现在我们的修业年限从4年变10年，每学期至少要修的学分的下限每个学校都不一样，这个我们把下限拿掉了。我们10年之内学生可以任意进出学校来修课，而且如果你已经大学毕业，你要修第2个学士学位，他的学分数可以大幅的下降，最快1年就可以再拿第2个学位。当然是看你的这个修的科系的这个跟你第1学位的相关性。所以这些拿掉之后，可是我们的终身学习的这个成果现在还不太能够显现，还不太能够推得出来。为什么？因为我们还没有体验到这个终身学习的重要性。这个终身学习对我们国家不管是少子化也好，或者是政府要建构一个在2030年要建构台湾科技岛，这个都是非常的重要。各位想想看，台湾科技岛需要一个可以随时学习变化这么快的这个科技的这个学习的环境，所以这个部分是我们需要去学习的。那我们也看到 COVID-19 之后，这个电脑通讯科技，还有我们全世界发展的这些远距教学的环境，让我们终身学习的这个环境已经成熟了。所以我们等一下可以再来讨论。刚才前面有这个 Professor Wigler 讲到这个 Open University，Professor Kennedy 也有提到这个继续教育这个部分，其实真的非常的重要。我其实今天如果有机会的话，我们第2轮我们再一起讨论。以上，谢谢。
非常谢谢这个姚委员哈。这个他提到这个 SDGs 的第4项就是教育啊，提供终身教育机会。啊，他其实把这个终身教育机会跟什么连呢？跟科技教育连在一起了，啊，跟这个 digital 数位化的这个科技的素养。不过我想提一个小问题，就是说科技化 能够无远弗届吗？在我们教育，可以真正所有的人都能够公平的享有这个机会吗？出生于中产阶级的有钱的孩子，他数位化绝对没问题。可是出生于贫穷偏区的这些少年人，他能够得到有多少数位化的机会？所以 digital divide，这个可能也是我们要去，所以这个是不只是有这个机会，而且这个机会必须是公平的啊！我想这个可能更值得我们去探讨啊！我想这个可能就是我们必须要从 issue oriented 去看机会教育或者教育机会啊！非常谢谢这个姚委员。我们接下来请这个伍东兴校长，暨南大学校长这个伍校长跟我们表达他的意见，我们欢迎他。
黄董事长，还有部长，还有在座的各位先进，那今天很荣幸来讨论新时代的这个教育愿景跟策略。那既然是新时代，那我觉得在培养这个新时代，尤其是小于这种30岁以下的这些人，那我觉得他真的如同我们刚刚姚委员跟主席所讲的 SDG 的17项指标，这些他一定要有这个概念，而且一定要有这个了解，而且他要有这种全球的这个关怀的这样的作为这个了解的这种愿景。但是我们如果缩小来看，那怎么样来做这个教育的这个策略？那就是真正一定要把台湾的特殊处境来把它做这个分析，针对台湾，也就是台湾 need orientation， 台湾需求什么？因为台湾跟其他的世界各地有一些不同，因为它面对的是非常严重的高龄化，还有这个很多的这一些特殊的这些问题，所以我们的教育的策略，那尤其是针对30岁以下，不管是年轻人也好，不管是新住民也好，不管是原住民也好，不管是这些我们积极引进的这一些留学生，希望他们未来能够在台湾工作，那么他要针对这些不同的这一些结构，那其实或者是从小学、中学、大学，那针对不同的环境的这一些教育，其实我们就缩小来看，就是老师。那这些老师到底我们台湾的对于老师有没有什么更多的这个协助？那我觉得老师教育来说，老师是最重要的。那但是呢，台湾过去对于老师的规范，不管是教师法的规范，不管是相关的，其实大部分都偏向这个奖励面，奖励面非常非常多，尤其是奖优的部分，不管是这个吴部长所恢复的这个师铎奖，这个是对大学老师也有，原来只有中小学。那对于这些科研更好的，也有很多的奖励。那同时呢，弹性薪资或者是相关的中小学的，我们有很多 super 教师，有些 super 校长这一类的这些奖励很多。但是，一旦提到这个有所这个期待的时候，其实大家就仅剩下一些教师法的一些很积极及消极面的一些做法。所以，但是同样是培养人、培养学生，我们对于这个尤其是不管是医师、药师、护理师、社工师、长照师，所有跟人有关系的，他们其实都是有终身，不仅是终身学习，而且是强迫要累积积分，累积积分不断的学习，因为现在的环境变化得太快，等6年一次，老师到这个尤其是职业技术教师相关，不然6年一次到这个工厂去做实习半年的，其实是来不及了。所以如何透过我们最新的这个，因为我知道在教育圈里面，大家过去讨论了很多老师的这一些证照、换照这一些类的问题，后来都无疾而终。为什么？因为有很多的困难。台湾有很多的地方其实是没有办法享受到这种资源，但是因为我们现在的数位学习、数位 AI 的这一些方法，如果能够特别的培养我们所有无远弗届，台湾不管是在 原乡部落，不管是在都市型的这些老师，不管是他有没有时间，他都有机会来从这个数位教学里面这些能够得到一定的积分，能够得到一定的训练，甚至国家从这个双语国家变成双语政策，那整个的转变，这些部分都很快速的能够了解，然后甚至能够把这些双语所面对的这些问题，那怎么样去做这个真人？那所以我觉得是有必要能够很快速的利用积分的部分，能够把老师，把每一个地方，不管是中小学，甚至大学的老师，都把他这个换证的方式，能够有证照、有效的方式，能够把它累积到足够的积分。那我觉得这样子的时候，就过去可能做不到的，那现在因为 AI， 我们大家讨论一直要把这些最新的教学科技用在学生身上，那我真的很建议，为了老师是最重要的。那如果老师能够学会，老师能够学到更新的，能够借由这一些数位教学，能够所有学习到他的在教学本位上面他所需要最新的东西。那甚至这个我们知道，在很多科技厂，你这个不会，其实你就是有数位教材，看到会为止，而且真的有一些线上测验，能够让你考到会为止。其实不同的这个行业其实都有类似的东西。其实我觉得不一定，我们教育不一定是说要一学就会，其实反而是说我多看几次，多了解几次，这个我到最后能够达到一定的这个积分，能够达到一定的这个数位的这个考核，这个我觉得是现在是可以做得到的，而且对老师来说也避免到老师又要被考核的这种传统，这种老师有一定的这个我们对尊师很重要，但是利用数位跟 AI 的部分，会维持了这个老师的一定的这个的原来的这些很深的部分。那我觉得能够把这些老师们的这个的持续性的教育能够与时俱进的能够培养起来，这样子这个老师不管是在偏乡，不管是在这个都市，他都有机会能够把最新的东西，而且是不管是教育部也好，国教署也好，所赋予的老师所需要的东西，很快的把它拉起来。那我觉得提供这一点建议给大家参考，谢谢。
谢谢武校长啊，从他的这个发言当中，我们得到几个逻辑了啊。第一个就是，如果要有好的新世代，要有好的新生代，就必须要有好的教育。那要有好的教育呢，就必须要在各层级有好的老师。那他提出了一个政策的这个看法，就是说我们现在的教师法是不是已经是一个完善的制度啊？是不是一个完善的法，可以来有效的培养好的老师跟好的师资？我想这个的确是一个政策的议题，也许姚委员你可以考虑考虑，这个是你的 territory 啊。OK， 好，接下来我们再请这个一位年轻人来。首先我要谢谢这个黄昆辉基金会啊，安排一个年轻人，所以让我们这个 panel 啊年轻降低了至少20年，所以至少20年。你现在几岁
26岁，
那个才26岁。So OK， 那我们很高兴能够胡耀杰创办人跟 CEO， 他是台湾图灵链股份有限公司，他是做教育评鉴啊，是不是教育评鉴局？教育
数位认证
啊，数位这个都是新名词了啊，对我来讲都是新名词，这个我要学习。这英文叫做 Turing Certificate 啊，所以这个比较清楚啊，所以我们非常高兴能够有一个年轻人笑脸的哈，来给大家参加讲一挂较新的代志啊，所以我们先来欢迎这个吴创办人来。
Ladies and gentlemen， 我是 Jack， 我想我这一场就用中文来跟大家分享。很高兴这个肖资正，然后各位教授，然后委员和校长的这个邀请，还有这个我那时候收到邀请函的时候，我有点愣了一下，想说是不是 同名同姓另外一个人受邀，我有点受宠若惊。然后后来这个跟了秘书确认之后才知道，哦，原来这个希望来现场分享一下新时代教育的一些想法。刚刚校长有提到，就是新时代的定义，如果是30岁以下的话，我觉得我目前刚好落在那个范畴。那我今天讲的题目，因为在这个世界上见识的时间其实还没有很多，我大概就是用自己新时代在台湾受教育的一些背景，我特别喜欢的几个东西来跟大家分享。那这些东西，在我身边的其他人，他们可能现在在世界各地工作，也是从台湾出发，在世界各地创业，他们可能也是经历过类似的一些轨迹，所以这些东西就是，也许是新时代我们现在喜欢的一些教育方式这样子。OK， 我是在新竹长大。那在新竹中学毕业，不知道这边有没有学长姐、学弟妹之类的？是，so nice。那在竹中的时候，因为大家都说他们比较像是这个，就是山上的孩子的学校这样的感觉。我特别喜欢那边的环境，因为它非常的 casual。那除了基本上上课时间你都要到之外，其他的事情就是 up to you。那我记得我那个时候在数理资优班，那学校有非常非常多的机会，像是什么思源科技基金会的竞赛啊、科展的竞赛，还有我们跟这个韩国的交换。姐妹校交换的这个东西，所以其实只要你在做一些对学校有就是 scientific contribution 的事情，你完全不用待在班上。那时候我就看说，既然有这样的规则，我就把所有的东西都申请了。所以我在班上的时间就变得非常少，我就常可以去新竹女中他们交流，或者去其他这些学校参加他们不同地方的一些 camp 跟活动这样，然后在很多的地方就是做这样的一些 conversation。我觉得新竹中学或台湾的一些 high school 他们有做到这样一些不同 scientific 的 contest opportunity 是一件非常棒的一件事情。那竹中毕业之后，其实我就到了香港。就到了香港科技大学，所以就是刚刚这个 professor 来自于就是香港教育大学，其实就在附近。香港科技大学给我的印象是它非常非常的竞争，非常的 crowded， 然后有很多人只说2种语言，就是 Cantonese 跟 English。那这个在当地的时候，每天学校基本上会有很多的 email 的，我们叫 email bombing， 很多的这个轰炸，基本上里面大量的创业资源，说Cyberport 最近有什么样的一些比赛 ？Science Park 最近有什么样的一个资金可以申请？它有非常非常多的这样的一个资源会 come in。因为可能是因为我是双子座的关系，我觉得全部都会申请，对吧？就是比较花心在这个机会上面。那申请完之后呢，就参加了很多的 startup 的这个 competition。我大概大1跟大3就开始参加了2间新创 as a co-founder and CTO。那这2间公司分别在半年跟1年内就倒闭了，所以我觉得是一个非常好的 learn from failure 的一个机会，就是在大学期间大1、大3就有很多的这个机会去学习、去认识怎么样面对失败，怎么样得到新的机会这样子，然后组织自己的一个团队。后来我大4的时候就成立了这间公司，叫做 Turing 就一直跟着我到美国，回到台湾，然后在世界各地发展这样子。那中间想再稍微分享一下，如果还有时间，我在大3的时候其实在 Switzerland 交换，在那个 Lausanne EPFL 这间公司这间学校这样子。瑞士给我更不一样的感觉，就是因为台湾跟香港其实蛮常送学生出去交换，那他会问说这个要不要留在台湾顾成绩。我通常给学弟妹的建议就是，我们留在台湾，我们也没有在顾成绩，所以就不如出去闯荡，然后就去 travel 这样。所以在瑞士的过程中，因为他们有非常多的资源投入在research， 那因为瑞士地广人稀，所以基本上走在路上的这种野生动物其实比人还要多，你可以很专心的做自己的 research。我那时候做的就是 AI 相关的一个跟 brand 的解析有关的一个 research， 蛮享受的一个过程，在那边的半年的时间。那香港结束之后，最后一个里程就是我后来去了美国，就在2年前的2019年、2020年的时候，我在 UC Berkeley， 其实也跟 UCLA 非常的靠近，读我 FinTech 的这个 graduate school， 就是 Master。那在那边遇到非常多台湾人，因为台湾人很多就是大学读完之后就直接往美国前进，然后在那边读书这样子。他的课业的这个环境又是另外一个氛围哦，因为非常多的 VC 跟 startup 在矽谷那个地方，所以基本上每一个课后我们都会有大量的 meetup session， 是你可以去旧金山参加 designer 的 meetup、coder 的 meetup， 或者是这种很多地方都会有提供你免费披萨。 那我那时候是一个学生，为了要省钱，我就每天6点多先参加第一场，然后我大概就知道哪些 meet up 的食物最好吃，那就是到处在矽谷那边游荡这样子。那在学校期间，老师也非常的开放，你基本上knock on任何一个教授的门，你都可以直接 walk in， 跟他讲说，我是谁，我想要跟你做什么样的合作，我觉得你的什么 research 非常有兴趣，我可不可以加入你的 lab？ 所以这个就是它是一个非常 open door 的 strategy。我举个例子，我那时候刚到的时候，第一份作业下来是 AI 相关的题目，有6个大题。我看完第一大题的第一小题，我就不会写。那我就跟教授讲说，教授，你是一个 FinTech program， 但是只有 AI 的 FinTech， 你们有没有区块链的课纲？他就说没有，那你要教吗？我就跟他说，那老师，我们做个条件交换，我帮你教2堂课的 Blockchain Introduction， 你让整个 classroom 这个 AI 的功课不要计分。老师就说 OK， 就是 go for it。后来我被很多同学请吃饭，就是因为这个原因，就是那时候建立了很多的这个新的朋友关系。所以我觉得经历了台湾的这个土生土长，到了香港，后来在瑞士交换，跟美国，世界各地都有不同的教育机会。所以用一句话 in summary 应该就是说，虽然我们在台湾出生，但是可以在世界各地受教育，最后再把所学回馈到台湾跟整个社会，我觉得是新时代可以做的一件事情。谢谢大家。
然后非常谢谢 Jeff 的这个现身说法哈。那我也发现这个 Jeff is a true global and liberated and good negotiator. A young man, of course, a young man, and I think the young men now, young man, young woman nowadays need to negotiate. Negotiate with your situation. Negotiate with your parents, negotiate with the surroundings, and negotiate with the future so that you can have a better future. If you don't know how to negotiate with the future, then you will fail. So I think it's very important to negotiate, to look at the future. What is, whom, where, how to negotiate. So it's very important. I think this is good experience. 好，我们现在进入到这个第二 round。第二 round 我们时间控制的还算不错。啊，我们5点20分结束，这快了一点，对不对？快了几分钟？快2分钟。OK， 好。那我们现在进入第二 round， 为了这个让时间比较充裕哈，不要太赶哈，所以我希望the second round, how about limited to 3 minutes each one? 3 minutes, 3 to 4, 3 plus minus. And then we can have a few minutes left. If we can invite questions from the floor as well. So let's go for it. And so Professor Yoshida, you go first again.
Okay. So actually, I don't need to have so much time for 3 or 4 minutes, but the topic or the main topic of this conference is AI is first. So the second topic of this conference is citizenship education, and the third one is globalization. And now this round table is focused on lifelong learning. So these 4 topics are very close related to each other. So I think liberal education, the main purpose of liberal education to broaden our perspectives. So liberal education connected these 3 or 4. So it is very important for our future to broaden our younger generation. So otherwise we cannot do right judge. For example, as I talked yesterday, so we cannot trust AI so much right now. So we need to how to use AI to prosper our future life. So in this regard, we need to judge how to use AI. So we need liberal perspective, very important. And citizenship is also connected to liberal education or other sciences. So to keep democracy for our future, so we need to broaden our perspectives also. and lifelong is also globalization also. So I think how to broaden our future generation is essential to our education in the future. So this is my comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I was struck listening to Professor Torres originally. He was calling for the importance of strengthening liberal democracy, looking at the threat in America. But I think we should also question ourselves, and America should question itself. The focus on liberal democracy has frequently been on the autonomy, the freedom of people, not on teaching shared values. Though there's been a loss of the shared values that we heard about in Taiwan, but in America, so that everybody's opinion is equally worthwhile, every lifestyle is equally worthwhile. No wonder this system is failing, because it's founded on very bad thinking. And I don't think it's impossible to improve liberal democracy with shared values. And I would like to propose that those values come from the experience of dialogue, from reaching out to other cultures, from learning from other cultures. That actually involves politeness, it involves humility, it involves empathy. And we should actively teach these values, and we should celebrate these values. And we could do that, of course, through many of the examples we've heard here. I was impressed by, we just heard this idea that when he asked if there are courses that he was invited to teach, the increasing model of education which we can see online, which is enabled by the internet, is about peer-to-peer learning. There are many people in the society who have a great deal to offer. How do we liberate that capacity for teaching, so we don't just have online courses where you sign up and there are lots of materials, where you're actively taught by other people who are experts in the field, and you yourself can offer your own expertise. So this is just some thoughts that I had stimulated by this discussion. The importance of peer-to-peer learning and of teaching for dialogue, which means learning, being able to learn from others and being able also to support and share with others.
Okay.
That's my comment. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You actually mentioned about the how to educate our future generation to be humble and to be polite, and how to communicate. Exactly what Professor Kennedy mentioned about interpersonal. I think I agree with you. As I see my students over the last 40 years, from 40 years ago until now, I found that the communication skill is getting less and less. And I think the mobile phone has contributed to it. You know, they are good at communicating with the iPhone with fingers, but they don't know how to communicate with mouse and with the head and with the heart. I think it's very important. They will communicate. Okay, look at my. I just sent you email. Look at, and they don't talk. And they went to the grandma's birthday, and 3 kids, grandson, grandfather, the grandma was sitting there, and they would, oh, happy birthday, grandma. And then they would each one close their eyes. And then grandma was sit idle and doesn't know what to do. And this is my birthday. And then you guys are watching touching the mobile phone without talking to me. Of course, that's after lunch or after dinner, you know. And even dinner, mobile phone. You know where they put the mobile phone? Right here, right? So it is interpersonal education. It's very important. That's should be part of the liberal education, and interpersonal education is very important. You know, and we don't want a technology fix, a technology monster. we want a holistic, human and normal children for the next generation. Of course, this is maybe my complaint, who is old enough to complain. Okay, now, Professor Kennedy, it's your turn.
Thank you. I just want to try and pull a few things together if I can. I mentioned continuous education, learning all the time, and some other colleagues talked about lifelong learning. But I want to try and divide those two, because the agenda of lifelong learning is largely an agenda about becoming a better worker. And of course, it's important to become a better worker. The entire PISA project around global competence is about producing better workers. It's about producing workers who can go and communicate in the international marketplace. That's not what I mean. What I mean is you need to become a better citizen. You need to be able to understand exactly the kind of point that was just made about the use of technology. That's about being a better citizen. It's not about being a better worker. But those two things, I think, could be seen as equally important. But so often the agenda is around producing better workers. 21st century skills is nothing more than about producing better workers. Although citizens who are creative, problem solving, and critical are good citizens. And just to finish on liberal education, I think this is the connection to liberal education. Creating better citizens is something that's ideally done in a liberal education context. So I think all those ideas have come up, and to me it's just all come together at once. I want people to learn about being a better citizen, and I'll leave the creation of better workers to other people.
A better whole person, not just partial, not just segmental, one-dimensional person, but the whole person and good citizen. I think that also associated with the civic education, which is, I think that all the discussion so far has linked to each other. It is great to know that. My mentioning about the young generation today in terms of a lack of a skill, interpersonal relation, and I'd like to hear from you, the young generations in the audience, to say, no, we are not like that. We have been whole person. We are a good citizen. We know how to communicate. So show us. Otherwise, we'll take it that you are like a nerd. Otherwise, show us you are not. You are not what I described. Please, I give you a few minutes to say protest. I am not like that. Okay. So 我再请姚委员来，请发言。
谢谢。我非常同意这个 Professor Kennedy 所说的，就是说，他继续教育的终极目标，应该不是让我们成为 better worker 更好的这个工作者，应该是更好的这个国民。我非常同意因为各位可能都不知道有没有听过，我们在明年就要上路的国民法官，我们可以成为这个跟法官一起来决定这个就是我记得是5年以下徒刑的这个就是比较轻罪的对不起是比较重罪的人的这个徒刑那这个部分其实我们都没有足够的训练，我们需要更好的法治的教育。那所以其实这只是一个例子，国民法官是即将上路的国民法官是一个例子，所以我非常同意这个Professor Kennedy 讲的，我们的终极目标是这个 better citizen。那但是我还是要回到这个对不起，我很在乎，我很着急我们的少子化对我们国家的影响，少子化对我们的影响。现在今年15.2万，去年15.2万的新生儿，少子化代表的意思是，每一年投入到就业市场的大学毕业生会更少。可是一个 我们一个国家要维持一个强盛的国家，各方百工百业都需要人才，我们需要各方面的专长来维持我们国家稳定的运作。如果投入的心血不够，那可不可以我们的旧血重新过滤之后，又成为新血继续投入？所以，我们2400万的国民，真的，他只要有就业的意愿，我们的这个终身学习的这样的一个教育的环境的建构，应该去提供给我们国民他一个完整而且充分学习的机会，让他可以重新回到大学之后再充电，可能1次，可能2次，一次又一次的充电，让他可以去很无缝的去转换他的这个职涯的轨道，然后为我们国家提供他个人可以提供的贡献。所以我觉得终身学习的这个重要性就在这里。那么大家可能会说，我们不是有空中大学吗？我们现在有一个空中大学，跟高雄有一个市立的空中大学，一个国立的，一个市立的。可是空中大学，拿我们国立的空中大学来说，只有6个系，6个系主要都是社会科学跟这个商业的这个科系。我们150个大学里面，各式各样的科系都有。我们国家的人才的需求是多样性的，所以我们一定要在这个150所大学的这样的一个基础之下，我们要重新去法规的释放，我们要有观念的改变，我们要有更大的这个步伐，更大的决心，让我们这150所大学的各行各个科系，为我们建设一个国家更完整的国家、更强盛的国家，不受少子化的影响，让我们国家继续强盛下去。这是我对后的这样对这个终身学习这样的一个看法。以上，谢谢。
好，非常谢谢，非常谢谢。这个少子化是永远是一个最大的问题。他们现在说我们这个台湾呢，跟韩国在比谁比较低，所以我们现在好像比韩国高一点点。不过就预期10年后，我们又会比韩国低。那也就是说，我们永远是第1或第2，但是不是我们理想中的第1或第2名，这可能要考虑啊。好，我们接下来再请这个吴校长来，请吴校长。
其实我们今天几位讲者都有共同提到，就是这个民主的共同价值。我想这个也是我在这一轮上面，我希望说在跟大家分享。我觉得在新时代的这个人才的这个培养，我觉得怎么样建立这一些年轻人对于民主的共同价值。那因为大家都知道，大家要追求民主开放，然后所以每个人都要自由，然后学生也要自由，老师也要自由，但是大家没有建立这个共同价值。那什么叫做这个民主的共同价值？那要建立这个民主的共同价值有什么策略？我觉得这个策略最简单的，然后可以做的，就是已经大家都在做，比如说这个资讯透明。资讯透明是很重要的一件事情，然后还有事实查核机制。现在大家对于可能跟这个国家这个安危相关的，可能有一些这个事实查核。可是大家知不知道，在现在即使是在中学也好、大学也好，这些学生最困扰的是什么？是这一些所谓的键盘侠或者是键盘魔人。那可能很多新时代这些学生，他来的资讯来源，他不是来自于报纸，不是来自于学校的这些这个正式的公告，它都是来自于这一些这个网络上的，而且是所有匿名性的方式的这些资讯传达。因为在匿名的情况之下，他可以不用负责任，他可以不经过事实查证就任意这个做自己想要做的事情，这个是违反了民主的价值。所以怎么样从我们在教育学生的过程里面，就要随时的建立资讯透明而且事实的查核机制，这个是非常非常，而且是迫不及待要做的。那尤其是大家可能在觉得说，每个学校到底办学办得怎么样？那其实这个 在整个我知道教育部这个也委托相关的这些这个机构也做了一校一本。那到底念哪一个大学才是 CP 值比较高？那教育部也统计了每一个学系、每一个这个相关的这一些这个学制，那他的毕业135年的投保薪资集聚，也就是说，有一些如果真的是他念的某一些学校或某一些学系，真的他的投保薪资都偏低的时候，这时候这种资讯还是应该要有公布，让所有的这个社会大众在事实查核机制、资讯透明的情况之下，让家长、考生都能够有适当的选择。那所以我觉得这才是一个民主共同价值的这个实施策略。我简单的分享到这边，谢谢。
现在有一个新的名词啊，叫做 post fact era， 意思是说我们事实不再是事实，你看到的、你听到的可能都不是事实，所以是有很多的社会的机制，像这个事实查核像中正大学有事实查核这个研究中心，然后还有很多民间团体在做，这的确是。我倒想建议所有的人，不包括我，因为我很少在网上传信息。不要轻易的传递转信息，看到就转，不要转，先想想看要不要转，因为你一转就要负责任。我觉得这个作为一个负责任的手机使用者，作为一个负责任的网上人，可能是很重要的。这个应该也算是公民教育吧。好，最后我们再请笑脸人来共解。玛丽。
Okay. For equality, I'm going to go with English for this time. And so I would like to share like what I learned from each of the speakers right here. So for Professor Yoshida, you talk about like how we use like AI technology to bring in as a module of the education for students. I think that's a very important topic because when I was studying in high school and in university, I feel like AI gradually become one of the common sense. It's no longer a tool and no longer a domain knowledge that only certain group of people understand about it. It's like every single one of us needs to learn a bit about programming. And the next level of programming is how we automate the entire processes, and that is AI. So I think that's a very important topic, and I want to thank you for this. And also to echo from the Professor Wajarif. You talk about peer-to-peer learning. I think that's very important as well. I recall when I was doing programming learning in school, the best teacher is always not the textbooks, and maybe not the professor in the class, but usually the senior. Like when you go to a hackathon, go to a competition, and that like senior people, professional expert, they teach you hands-on skill, how you actually do different coding style, different way of solving the mathematical problem. So peer-to-peer learning, I think that's a key. We learn from the better people, and then we make their skill part of us. So I think I really agree with it. And to mention about what the Professor Kennedy and also Yao Weiyun has been talking about, you talk about continuous learning, 终身学习. So as a startup founder, every day we wake up to the new challenges. Every day we wake up to the new problem that we haven't canvassed in the past. So we feel like we are the ceiling of the company. So if we don't learn new things every day, the company got stuck right there, and we cannot survive for the next one of when the burn keep on rising. So I totally agree. Like continuous learning, it happened in startup, it happened in company, it happened in other like worker spaces. So that's a key as well. So to talk about like from President Wu Xiaozhang, you said about like checking facts. Actually, we're like collaborating with Jinan Guji about checking facts on identity. So checking facts about certificates, credential. That's what our company is doing naturally. Like we do e-certificates for the origin, so people can easily one-click verify on blockchain. So I think technology can be one part of the player inside the fact checking as well. About blockchain, we talk about immutability, transparent, open, and sustainability. So that's something I truly learned from today, and I personally feel like connected to each of the professionals. Thank you so much. Thank you.
谢谢。好，我们现在还剩下2-3分钟啊，因为这个钟比较快啊，所以我们允许欢迎1个问题到2个问题，1个问题1分钟，好不好？来，笑脸嘞，希望年轻人回答刚刚我的问题，我给你们挑战。你们告诉我，你们不是那个只会上网、只会在网上跟人家沟通的年轻人，有没有什么经验可以提供我们？或者你们已经有自觉了，或者怎么样？来，有没有谁？年轻人不分男女，我们要 gender equality。来，好来，请，后面那位。那个还有没有人举手？我们再一位。
按下去，麦克风。
对，麦克风。
隔壁的看看，哦，有了。
喂，好，下午好，我是国立台湾师范大学的大学部学生，然后我面对这个问题，其实我觉得在我去年的家教经验当中，还获得一个蛮好的实践过程。就是我带的小朋友，他父母都是蛮高收入背景的，也因此他们相处的时间很少，导致小孩他其实是不知道要怎么跟爸爸妈妈对话和相处的，也就是被所谓电脑保姆、3C 保姆照顾的那一代的小孩。那时候采用的策略是，我们通过一开始妈妈跟我说的是，他们想训练绘本阅读和写作的能力，就是整个语文系统的训练。然后我所做的是，透过跟家长的沟通，强迫吗？就是让小孩在3方先讨论好一个共识的状况下，一起去为每次的上课做准备。比如说，我们下一次上课可能要看一本跟图书馆有关的绘本，那我就请爸爸妈妈要在假日的时候带小朋友去图书馆，然后他可能一起拍一个影片，去介绍图书馆的功能，或者是介绍一本他在图书馆借的有兴趣的书，或者是可能明天我们要阅读一本跟水果有关的绘本，那我们就先请他去访问爸爸妈妈，可能只是花个5分钟，然后就去问他说：“爸爸妈妈，你们最喜欢吃的水果是什么？为什么？然后它为什么很好吃？你会希望让我多吃一点吗？”类似像这样很简单的日常生活对话，用有点像小挑战、小任务的形式，然后来促进他们之间的沟通。然后到后来，他们的家庭气氛我觉得也略有改善。所以我刚听到这个节目这个题目就是发表了一下我的小小的看法，这样子，谢谢。
好，你的那个家教经验是不是？
对。
那你那个小朋友几岁？
他现在是国小3年级。
哦，国小3年级。
对。
好，有没有要讲大学生怎么样子？我们呢要 fix 这些国小的，那个大学生要不要 fix 一下？有没有举手？哪里？哦，来，请。女生比较 active 哦，男生怎么啦？来，
这个就是老师、同学还有与会的朋友们，大家好。然后我是师大教育系的研究生是杨丹。那其实我是在听完就是今天的回馈，然后还有议题的时候，我其实反而想要就是问一个问题是，因为我觉得我们好像请了很多的国外的学者，然后还有我们其实年轻的代表，其实也是有留学国外的经验的。那我觉得回扣到我们的这个新世代这个新教育愿景的时候，我们除了向外的追求这些国际教育的议题，我们有没有本土或者是我们原本那些很值得重视的那些教育的价值，是我们可以就是持续延续下去的？这个是就是我觉得还蛮想要询问的一个问题，这样子。对，然后。因为我觉得这个问题可能也是因为我们就是新世代大部分其实处在这个教改过程中，其实就是这30年嘛，大概就这30年。所以我觉得除了世代变化很快以外，其实我觉得我们现在的教育内容有没有某一定程度的去让我们跟过去的学习者是不一样的，就是学习内容导致就是有现在的很多的冲突，然后或者是像提到的 那个像那个奶奶，就是我知道干那个阿嬷的故事这样子，就是可能会有那样子，就是我瞬间不知道怎么跟我的比如说长辈们去沟通，因为我们的沟通内容是不一样的，他们受到的教育跟我受到的教育内容已经不一样，我们要怎么去互相的同理对方？这个是我觉得除了我们一直就是这个强调外求的部分，有没有我们往内的在这个新世代人才也可以注意的地方？谢谢。
非常谢谢。我想这个好，还有看这个话匣子一开就没完没了。好，来再来这一位。好，来我们最后一个问题了哈，最后一个哈，表达意见也可以。
大家好，老师好，就是我是台师大教育所的学生，然后我想要问，就是刚刚大家谈论的这个部分，我想要有2个问题想要提问哦。第一个呢是针对区块链的发展，其实它是希望匿名分散的状况，但我们要求真实，又希望资讯可以透明，那两相矛盾的状况应该如何看待？第二个，资讯安全的部分，比如说我在中学教书，之前学习历程档案消失，那这样子的状况，我们应该如何面对和应对？谢谢。
好，这个问题很大哈，而且很专业。我那个 Jeff， 你等一下再回答他，好不好？这样比较好。说得好。我想我们时间虽然这个我希望快几分钟可以往回倒几分钟，不过但到不了了，我们必须结束了哈。那我想这个主办单位还是希望这个主持人呢能够讲几句结论的话啊。那我在想哈，我想就是说，为了准备下一个世纪，为了准备下一个这个不同的世代，我们的教育应该做怎么样的准备？我现在听了今天这个 round table， 我们发现不只是3方面，而是5方面。第一个，我们必须要为新生代、为未来的世代准备好的人文及全人教育，也就是说，先做好人，要做好一个人啊，不是做好人，好人有点庸俗了，做好一个人的必要条件。第二个就是数位教育，当然很重要。但是大家谈到的数位教育，不只是为了求生存而已，不只是为了做一个好的蓝领白工，把蓝领或者白领的劳工，而且是在这个社会竞争的社会，能够作为一个生存者，作为一个竞争的胜利人生组啊，我想这个是很重要。第三个呢，就是公民教育。那这公民教育今天这个座谈已经把它扩大到很大了，不只是民主而已，而且包括什么？包括我们对乡土历史的重新尊重跟认识，也包括环境，也包括媒体的警觉，而且还有法治啊。我刚刚好几位都提到，也就是说这个 civic education 包括 democracy and among others。那第4个就是这个教育呢，我们将未来的教育必须要为每一个人的终身提供机会，一个人都不能够缺席，一个人都不能够落后。我想这个很重要，公平的终身教育，而且 lifelong 一生的教育。第5个呢，又回到这个大会在这个2天内所提出来，就是我们要具备给未来的台湾人有全球视野的教育，那这个很多的方法可以做，所以我们的教育的机构，我们教育的教学方式，我们教育的研究方式，可能要如何透过各种 online 的教育，还有网上的教育，还有在学校的教育，都要变成一个全球人有一个全球视野，也就是做一个好的台湾人，先做一个好的台湾人，再做一个好的台湾国民，然后再做一个全球的视野的世界人、全球人。我想大概就是今天我们这2天来大会所提供的很多的值得我们汲取，也值得我们继续去思考的所有的一些观点。好，我想我们就到此结束。我们请跟我一样来谢谢这7位因为7位这个 panelist， 我们谢谢他们。也谢谢各位的积极参与，尤其是后面3位年轻人的这个回馈，非常的重要。Good job，OK， 好。
谢谢肖董事长。 考试委员胡校长、胡创办人以及 Professor Yoshida、Professor Gregory、Professor Kennedy and Professor Torres。我们请各位来到台前与黄董事长进行合影，谢谢。
可以吗？好，大家比个赞吗
？Yes，sorry。Follow me.